Harimau Malaya had a lot of Malaya, but very less Harimau. Hey everyone, I'm Sidhart Joe Dev, and this is what I think of Harimau Malaya, The Untold Journey.
Penyokong sejati selalu.
Harimau Malaya, The Untold Journey is a recent Malaysian sports drama directed by Dato' Afli Shoki. Well, the film here intends to tell you the inspiring story of the Malaysian national football team's journey to qualify for the 2023 Asian Cup after 42-year struggle. It focuses on the team's struggles, the changes in coaching leadership, and the challenges faced by key figures within the Football Association of Malaysia, which is also known as FAM. The movie shows some factual events with some fictional elements and features a strong cast, including Merkin, Tony Yusuf, Amelia Henderson, Wanida Imran, Araf Hazira, and so many others. Now let's talk about the script and screenplay. You know how I often complain that local films can be limited to focusing on a single narrative or perspective, which sometimes makes the script and screenplay feel one-dimensional? Well, that's not the case with Harimau Malaya. This film stands out for its multi-layered narrative. It's actually one of those things I like. Co-writers Aflin Shoki, Haris M. Noor, Sheila Anwar and Sabromo have created a narrative with four distinct perspectives. Firstly, you get to see things from the football management side, FAM, featuring Tony Yusuf and Namron. Secondly, it shifts the perspective to the head coach, Kim Panggon, with Lee Chanju in the spotlight. Third, you see the Harimau players themselves, showcasing performances by Merking, Wanida Imran, Sofia Albarakba, Aiman Hakim Reza, Aidil Aziz and Nabil Zakaria. And finally, you dive into the world of this four hardcore ultras with Douglas Lim, Hazama, Emilia Henderson and Kevin J bringing their stories to life. Honestly, I really like how the screenplay is laid out. You get to see things from the management's point of view, and then the coach's perspective, then the player's perspective, and then you got to see the fans' experience. It's a great way to show every angle and make the whole world feel more complete. Have they pulled it off successfully? That's up for debate. But it is a risk worth taking? Absolutely. Like, the way this narrative comes together in the screenplay is not messy at all. It's clean, it's not confusing. You're following four different perspectives from the beginning of the film. However, the biggest problem with this four-layered narrative in this film is that what's written here, it's not enough. It's not deep enough. It's not important enough. It's not impactful enough. I guess the makers might have aimed to create a rich, multifaceted story by focusing on various characters and storylines. While that sounds great in theory, it also needs a strong script to work. Unfortunately, Harimau Malaya stumbles with a bunch of half-baked subplots that never really hits the mark. A lot of scenes or subplots are introduced but then left hanging, making you wonder why were they even there in the first place. For example, Merkin and Sofia Albarakba's love story, Merkin and Aiman Hakim Reza's rivalry, whatever happening between Amelia Henderson and Douglas Lim, the marital drama between Wanida Imran and Aflin Shoki, Merkin's relationship with Aflin Shoki, and even Merkin's childhood are some of the plot lines that pops up, but it doesn't go anywhere. Now, some of the subplots even make you question the purpose. What's Namron's bigger goal as a journalist constantly criticizing FAM? Why include Tony Yusuf's character's family, played by Araf Hazira, Mia Sara and Sufyan? Why do we see Douglas Lim just sitting in his office listening to his staff's presentation? And why is Nabil Zakaria cracking one-liner that is supposed to be funny but fall flat like Kevin Hart in every comedy movie? This loose thread makes the script feel all over the place and slightly incomplete. You can tell that in trying to juggle all these different narratives, the writers might have gotten a bit lost, adding scenes that just feels unnecessary. So instead of giving us a satisfying, cohesive story, the film ends up with too many loose ends, making it very hard for the audience to really get into or care about the plot lines. And this lack of closure, ladies and gentlemen, takes away from the overall impact of the film. At the end of the film, because there's so much going on, you just want to ask the makers, what is your main goal? What do you want to really tell? What is your focus? You can, because now by trying to do too much, you risk of losing our attention, leaving us with more questions than answers. The ambition is there, and that is great, but the film would have been a bit more better if it was focused and each subline were given attention enough for it to hit home. And honestly, I feel like that's where the script stumbles. The dialogue in Harimau Malaya is another area where the film really struggles. Lines like Sofia Albarakba saying, "Hi Tiger, say hi to my fans," or young Merkin asking his father, "Tapi, kenapa ayah tak boleh duduk di sini?" Then there's Maria from Malay Press, "Do you think you're better than him?" The entire speech by Lee Chanju about great players, along with pretty much everything Nabil Zakaria says in the film. And then there's a supermarket scene where an actual football player talks about fans and football. The dialogues are very hard to sit through. The film's direction feels a bit inconsistent. At times it resembles a biopic, while at other moments it shifts to a purely fictional narrative. Occasionally it even dips into the typical Malaysian telemovie style, very soap opera. Here are some of the directorial choices that didn't work for me. Now, the film struggles with believability. For instance, Emilia Henderson's character, who's supposed to be a cabin crew member, seems to have endless free time. She's shown hanging out at Mama's stall, shisha, chilling at the stadium, watching games from a random rooftop. But then finally, they reveal that she's working as an airline's cabin crew. What? If you know anyone who works as a cabin crew, you know their schedule is packed, making it unrealistic for her to be everywhere all the time, including during Harimau Malaya's training session in the daytime. So it's odd to see her involved in every other activity and then to find her coming out of the airport as cabin crew member. You may argue maybe she's working in AirAsia, flying domestic. Still missing a point. She's being transferred to Middle East, means her airlines flies internationally. How is she only doing domestic flights? See, moments like this, you're trying to sort of justifying the logic, the believability of character basically is very crucial, right, for the film direction to work. The film also builds a strong emotional narrative around Rashtan, played by Merkin, but this focus doesn't seem to fit with the overall film theme. It raises question, why is Rashtan the only focus? Is he the only important player in the football team? Since the film isn't a biopic about Rashtan, it's odd that he gets so much attention while the rest of the team is sidelined. The film also turns into a real tearjerker, making the final victory seems more about Rashtan and his mother more than the team's achievement. And this leaves me wondering if the film is meant to be a story about mother and son or a tribute to the national football team. By the end, you're left feeling emotional for Merkin and Marida, sure, but not really for the team, the coach, the fans who made it possible. So the bigger question remains, is this film meant to highlight the struggles and achievement of the local football team, or is it just focusing on Rashtan's personal story? And even that, the personal story is so underdeveloped. Rashtan, from hating his mother, straight went to winning the game for the mother. Or third, the film doesn't provide enough context or development for other players, making it difficult for the audience to appreciate the team as a whole or to understand their struggle and achievement. I don't understand. Is this film meant to help us understand the struggles and achievement of our local team or not? Because without deeper look at the entire team, it's hard to connect with their journey, to see the bigger picture or their collective effort. Get into the head of the athletes, show the personal story, the struggles, and what drives them, make us care about their journey, invest more in exploring the team's internal dynamic and their personal stories so that we know who are they. Sadly, those choices were not made. This film is said to be inspired by some real incident of the national football team, but the direction clearly suffers from how much creative liberty they can take to add fictional stuff. For the entire movie, it's unclear whether these characters are fictional or based on real life, which leaves a gap in understanding their relevance and authenticity. This lack of clarity is frustrating because you want to know if you're watching a real story or a fictional representation. So you're constantly, did this happen or not? Oh, the lack of historical and cultural context is another problem. For a sports film to resonate deeply, it's important to frame the athlete's story within the broader narrative of sports history and significance to the country, right? To the people. Without this context, right, we struggle to connect with the team on a deeper level because it crushes the emotional impact of the journey and achievement. Like I mentioned earlier, in Harimau Malaya, we are introduced to the team and their challenges, but we're never really given a solid foundation to understand why this team matters to this country. How do we appreciate their struggles, their victories, their failures? We don't know about this legacy of Harimau Malaya through this film. Now, this film assures the audience already know and feel for the national team, but for many, this connection is either weak or non-existent. And this film fails to educate and inspire people in that sense about the legacy of Harimau Malaya. Now, all this you don't want to show, but you want to show Sofia Al-Barakba. I don't know why. This is where a film like Chak De India excels. It doesn't just tells you the story of a hockey team's quest for glory, it intertwines their journey with the history of Indian hockey and the socio-political challenges faced by the players. By understanding so, the audience we understand what's at stake. It's not about the team, but it's for the nation. We feel the pressure, the pride, the significance of every match. So the film builds to a larger narrative. Harimau Malaya misses this crucial element. It tells us who the players are, but it doesn't show us why they matter. But there are also some directorial choices that I like about the film. For example, I really like, for one, the focus on FAM, the Football Association of Malaysia, was spot on. The film gives us a peek into the internal drama of FAM, something most of us don't usually see. How much pressure the people in those positions are under and how much the media play a massive role in this football scene. I especially like the final conversation scene between Tony Yusuf and Namron, where they talked about what really makes Harimau Malaya. That was powerful. I just wish the movie had leaned more towards that direction. Another thing I love is, how they portray this ultras passion for the game, including the supporters' perspective and showing their journey as die-hard fans willing to do anything to watch the game was beautiful. It's a story that is relevant and it's very true, So yeah, my favorite parts of the film are the ones that focuses on Harimau Malaya itself, not the side plots like someone's cancer or childhood trauma. The actors in Harimau Malaya are not bad. In fact, some of them really gave it their all, and it shows. Take Merkin, for example, who plays Rashdan. This is my first time seeing him on screen, and I have to say that he got some serious potential. He completely embodies the character, and he really sells the role. With the right script, I think Merkin couldn't make it big in the industry. Then there's Tony Yusuf, who, in my opinion, carries the entire film. His presence on screen is just magnetic. Everything from his mannerism to his look to his dialogue delivery, it's top notch. He's the powerhouse. On the other hand, you also have actors like Lee Chan-chu, who I felt was a bit too restrictive. He doesn't really look like Kim Pang-gon, and while they try to make him resemble Kim Pang-gon, they also try to make him act like Kim Pang-gon. That's where the character falters. It ends up being too calculated, too choreographed, not very natural. You can almost see him acting. As for Sofia Albarakba, I honestly don't think she belongs in the story. Even if the character is necessary, right? The blame lies with the writers for giving such poorly written role. Come on, it's 2024. Why are we still writing this one-dimensional social media obsessed female characters? If you want a good example of how to do it, right, look at Lisa Suryani's character Mila in Ombak Rindu. Mila was an actress who was very image conscious and wanted her man to be a certain way, but she also had depth and fought for what she wanted. She wasn't just spouting lines like, I suka bila you marah, but I gram, what Sophia was stuck with in this film. Emilia Henderson actually delivers a surprisingly good performance in this film. I wasn't particularly impressed with her role in Pulau or Astro Originals ID because I felt like she was just playing herself. But here, when you strip away the glamour and give her completely different, she really sells it. She really pulls it off. Hazama, Douglas and Kevin J stay true to themselves. They are meant to be comic relief and they do their job well. Sure, there are a few hit or miss moments, but overall they are likable. They bring a genuine effort to the performances. Bel Ngasri and Namron plays characters that had potential but weren't explored deeply enough. As a result, both of their roles feel a bit one-dimensional and they just do what's required of them. Unfortunately, Nabil Zakaria, Ayman Hakim Reza, Aidil Aziz and Wanida Imran face the same issue. Their characters are so one-dimensional. That is, you're hard to see what they're capable of. But honestly, that's not their fault. It's the way their roles are written. As for Aflin Shawki, Era Fazira, Mia Sarah, Sufyan, Wana Ali, Liana Jasmine and Haris Anwar, they all just have extended cameo that didn't really add much to the story, to be honest. Also, can we please do a better job at training the background actors? I get it, these are just, extras, they are there to fill the set. But in this film, their superficial acting is really distracting. Whenever the ultras are watching the game from the outside of the premise or whatever, the people in the background are painfully obvious with their overacting. Take the scene where Rashdan is going to meet his mother at the kampong and the whole team is hyping him up like he's going to talk to his crush. And then there's a scene where the coach and his 4 assistants are supposedly doing some serious work, but it looks more like a group of guys scrambling to finish a last-minute university assignment. Taufik's wife reacting to husband Masyud Tongkat after the accident like... And don't even get me started on the Indian guy in the final scene holding a camera and staring like an idiot. Now let's talk about my favorite part, cinematography. It's bad. Visually, this film barely scrapes a 3 over 10 and that's being generous. It actually started off promising with the scenes in London, capturing the streets, the people and the beauty of the city so well. It gave me hope. But as soon as the film shifts back to Malaysia, the excitement just vanishes. The CGI is terrible. The blue screen effects are glaringly obvious. You can see it at the edges, reflected on the actors' face and the bodies. And worst of all, their hair even turns blue at times. It's distracting that you end up focusing on that instead of the actual scene. The color grading is another issue. It's inconsistent, especially when you compare it to the rest of the film and the football match sequences. The camera work doesn't help either, considering this is a sports film. You expect the camera to bring some energy and excitement, but it just doesn't. There's this one scene where the 4 ultras is sitting at a shisha shop, shot at a wide angle, and I swear the camera was tilted. It's a bit sangye. No? It really bothered me. The editing is fast-paced, thank God for that. But some of the transition are just weird. There was some flashback transition that just felt like straight out of Hikayat Putra Shazlan. Oh, and what's up with the background music? It's like 90% of the film is drowning in loud, non-stop background music. They just keep layering one inspirational track after another, even during regular conversation. So by the time the movie reaches its climax, the music has completely lost its impact. It doesn't add anything to the scene because you've been bombarded with the music the whole time. Harimau Malaya, The Untold Journey, ended up feeling more like Harimau Malaya the musical. The makeup is another disaster. Wanida Imran is supposed to be a cancer patient, yet she's got a nice brown sheet of makeup in the hospital when she's supposed to be dying. The makeup for Tony Yusuf, Kevin J, Afshin Shoki, and the entire football team during the barbecue dinner scene was just awful. Wanida Imran looks exactly the same in the flashback as she does in the present scenes. No attempt to show any progression of her illness, through makeup. I feel like the only redeeming factor is that the way Malaysia versus Bahrain game was shot, it was shot and presented well. It's done really, really well, actually. And with great commentary, of course. And then the Malaysia versus Bangladesh match, even better. I actually cried in the movie hall. Great, well shot and well commentary, background music, everything was just put together well. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, Harimau Malaya, the untold journey is, if everything I've mentioned doesn't quite cover it, there's also a post-credit scene. Watch that and see if it changes your perspective. Watch it if you want to.
Thank you for watching the video. If you would like to watch more reviews and podcasts and a lot more fun stuff, we are KAYPOH on all platforms.